The knock came at 6:15 p.m., a crisp rap that cut through the sizzle of burgers on my stovetop. It was a breezy Wednesday, the kind where the sun hangs low and golden over Cedar Hills, painting our little ranch house in soft light. I was flipping patties, the kitchen thick with the smell of grilling meat and the faint twang of a baseball game crackling on the radio. Mark was out, poker night, with his crew. His escape from the accounting grind, so it was just me, the dog snoring by the back door, and a stack of buns waiting to be toasted. I wasn't expecting visitors, not in my grease-splattered apron and a ponytail that'd given up hours ago. I wiped my hands on a rag and peeked out the window by the sink. Ellen stood on the porch, my next-door neighbor, her wiry gray hair catching the evening glow. She was 50-something, all sharp angles and frown lines, clutching a reusable grocery bag like it might run off. We weren't buddies, shared a wave over the hydrangeas, griped about the neighbor kid's drone. But she'd never knocked before. I swung the door open, the hinges groaning. "Ellen? Something wrong?" She didn't meet my eyes at first, just shifted her sneakers on the mat. "I need a favor," she said, voice low, edged with something tight. She glanced over her shoulder, then at me, her gaze sharp and pleading. "Can we talk inside?" "Sure, yeah." I stepped back, the cool air from the house brushing my arms as she hurried in. I shut the door, the latch clicking, and turned to her. "Mark's out, if it's about him." "It's not," she said, setting the bag on the kitchen table with a soft thud. Burgers hissed behind me, forgotten for now. She didn't sit, just stood there, hands twisting in her faded cardigan, her presence clashing with the chipped mugs and the dog's chew toy on the floor. "It's huge, life-changing." I tilted my head, spatula dangling in my hand. "Life-changing? What's up? You need a hand with something?" "No." She unzipped the bag, slow and deliberate, pulling out a thick manila envelope, creased, yellowed, with a smudge that looked like old ketchup. "I need you to take this, keep it safe. And if something happens to me when it does, you get it to the police." My jaw dropped, the radio announcer calling a strike in the background. "The police? Ellen, what's in there?" "Proof," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, eyes locking on mine, steady but scared. "About my ex. He's not what he seems. Dangerous. If he gets this, if he finds me." She swallowed, her throat working hard. "Just promise you'll hide it." "Please." My stomach flipped, burgers smoking behind me. "Dangerous? Like what kind? Are you in some mess?" "More than you'd guess," she said, shoving the envelope back in the bag. "I can't linger. He might be near. I saw his truck by the park last night." Her hands shook as she zipped it shut. "You're the only one I trust here." "Me?" I snorted, nerves bubbling up. "We're barely past hey status. Why not your cousin? Or too far," she cut in, sharp. "And he knows them. You're next door. You're ordinary. He won't suspect you." She thrust the bag at me, insistent. "Take it." A thud sounded outside, low, like a tailgate dropping in the driveway. My heart lurched, and Ellen stiffened, head snapping toward the window. The blinds were half up, dusk filtering through. "That's him," she whispered, voice trembling. "He's here." "Who's here?" I demanded, peering out. Another thud closer, maybe the fence. My skin prickled, sweat beading despite the breeze. "Ellen, what's in that bag?" "Everything," she said, pressing it into my hands. "Promise me. Hide it. Now." The air grew heavy, her fear infectious. I gripped the bag, its bulk sinking in. This wasn't a favor, this was a reckoning, and it was knocking. Ellen's hands trembled as she shoved the grocery bag into my arms, the manila envelope inside rustling like a trapped bird. The thud outside hit again, closer. a heavy boot crunching the gravel strip along our house. The radio crackled with a home run cheer, a jarring note under the panic swelling in my chest. I stumbled back, spatula clattering to the counter, burgers sizzling into char behind me. "Who's out there?" I hissed, the bag straps biting my palms. "My ex," Ellen whispered, voice fraying like old thread. "Tom, he's found me." She darted to the window, peering through the blinds, her cardigan snagging on the table's edge. The chew toy rolled, casting wobbly shadows across the linoleum. Mark and I had argued over installing. "He's not supposed to know I'm here." I fled Kentucky to shake him. "But he's here. Why's he after you?" I demanded, my shoulder bumping the fridge. The bag felt dense, packed with whatever proof she'd hidden inside. "What's this got to do with me?" Ellen turned, her face pale, gray hair sticking to her damp forehead. "That envelope, it's evidence. Ledgers, voicemails, photos. He's been skimming cash from his auto shop. Big money, dirty money. I took it when I left. He'll kill me to get it back." "Kill you?" My voice spiked, echoing off the cabinets. "Ellen, I'm not a bunker. Why drag me into this?" Another thud, louder, the porch steps now. My pulse thumped, drowning out the radio's play-by-play. "Because you're here," she said, grabbing my arm, nails digging through my tank top. "He knows my folks, my old crew. He's got eyes everywhere. You're just next door. He won't think of you." She pushed the bag harder. "Hide it now." A knock shook the door. 3 slow bangs, heavy as a gavel. I froze, the bag a brick in my grip. "That's him," Ellen breathed, backing toward the hallway. "Don't let him in. Don't say I was here. Don't let him in," I hissed, panic clawing my throat. "He's at my door. What do I do?" The knock repeated, harder, and a shadow slid past the blinds. Tall, thick, cap hold low. My gut churned, burgers smoking into ruin. "Stall him," Ellen said, bolting for the back door by the laundry nook. "I'll slip out. Hide it somewhere he won't look." Her sneakers squeaked down the hall, leaving me with a stranger hammering my front door. "Open up," a voice rumbled, gruff, thick with gravel and menace. "I know you're home." My hands shook, the bag slipped. I lunged for the pantry, shoving it behind a tower of cereal boxes, the envelope crinkling as I buried it deep. The banging grew fists now, rattling the frame. "I just want to talk." "No shot," I muttered, darting to the counter. The back door clicked. Ellen was out, but the front was under attack. I grabbed my phone, Mark's poker night, 911. Anything but the screen flickered, battery at 3%. Useless. "Who's there?" I shouted, buying time, my voice wobbling. The banging stopped, replaced by a low, greasy chuckle that iced my veins. "Tom," he called, too calm. "Ellen's ex. She dropped by?" His shadow shifted, head tilting like he was scoping through the glass. My breath hitched. Had he seen her? "She doesn't live here," I yelled, edging toward the nook. A creak outside, Ellen or him circling. "What do you want?" "Thought she might have visited," Tom said, syrupy now. "Got some unfinished business." "Mind if I come in?" The knob jiggled, locked, thank God. But then a scrape, metal on metal. Picking the lock? "She's not here," I snapped, heart pounding. The back was quiet. Ellen must have cleared the fence, but the bag sat in the pantry, a loaded gun. Another scrape, and the lock clicked. My blood turned cold. He was in. The door swung wide, and Tom stepped through, stocky, grizzled, cap-shadowing, a leathery face. He grinned, teeth crooked, and kicked the door shut with a thud. "Nice digs," he said, eyes sweeping. Radio, burnt burgers, pantry ajar. "Real homey. Sure Ellen didn't stop by." I swallowed, throat parched. "Dead sure," I lied, stepping back. His boots tracked dust across the floor, slow and deliberate, like he was claiming it. He paused by the pantry too close, and my pulse roared. "She doesn't come around. Funny," he said, tipping his cap back. "Saw her shadow here yesterday." His hand brushed the pantry door, casual, and my chest seized. "Mind if I grab a snack?" Before I could react, he pulled it open. The cereal wobbled, and the bag rustled, faint but damning. His grin sharpened. "What's that?" Tom loomed by the pantry, his rough hand hovering over the open door, the grocery bag's rustle slicing through the kitchen silence. My heart slammed, drowning out the radio's post-game chatter, the burnt burgers smoking like a warning on the stove. He'd picked my lock, barged in, and now he was inches from Ellen's evidence. Her escape, my burden. The cereal boxes teetered, the bag peeking out, and his eyes, narrow, glinting, pinned me. "What's what?" I choked, voice thin as wire. "That noise," he said, nudging a box. Another rustle, louder, and his grin twisted, slow and mean. "Hiding something, huh?" He reached in, fingers grazing the bag, and my stomach dropped. "Just boxes," I said, too quick, lunging forward. "Messy shelves. Sorry." I forced a laugh, shaky, hollow, praying he'd swallow it. Ellen was gone, out the back, but the bag was here, and I was the only wall left. Tom straightened, broad and imposing, dust flaking off his boots onto the linoleum we'd fought to afford. "Messy, huh?" He stepped closer, breath sour with coffee and malice. "Where's Ellen?" "Not here," I said, sharper, gripping the counter for steel. "I don't know what you're after." His gaze roamed nook, back door, pantry, and I held my breath, hoping Ellen's trail was cold. "Think you do," he said, closing the gap. "She's been stirring shit she shouldn't. Left me a problem." He kicked the pantry door wider, the bag shifting, and my legs trembled. "What's in there?" "Nothing," I snapped, adrenaline flaring. "You don't belong here. Get out." He chuckled, low and dark. "Oh, I'll go, after I see." He bent, hand diving for the bag, and I moved, pure reflex, grabbing the skillet from the stove. Grease dripped as I swung, clipping his arm. He staggered, cursing, crashing into the table. The radio toppled, static hissing across the floor. "Get out," I yelled, voice raw, hefting the skillet again. He righted himself, eyes blazing, but I stood firm, shaking but fierce. "Now," Tom wiped grease from his sleeve, grin gone. "Gutsy," he said, backing toward the door. "Tell Ellen I'll find her, and whatever she left." He slipped out, the door banging shut, and I slammed the deadbolt, chest heaving. I yanked the bag from the pantry, envelope intact, heavy with risk, and stashed it in the freezer behind a slab of last year's venison. My phone flickered, 2% now, but Mark wouldn't be home soon. Ellen's favor had turned my kitchen into a standoff, and I'd held my own barely. Mark rolled in later, sniffing the air. "Burnt dinner," he joked, tossing his cap. I didn't smile. "Worse," I said, scrubbing the skillet. Ellen texted at sunrise. "Safe. Keep it hidden. Thanks." I didn't reply, just brewed coffee and eyed the freezer. Lesson sank in. A neighbor's cry can drag you into a storm you didn't sign up for, and bravery's not loud. It's the skillet you grab when your knees quake. I'd shielded her secret, faced her shadow, and dug up a strength I hadn't known. If Tom came back, and he might, I'd be ready, not with cookware, but with a charged phone and a plan.